welcome to episode 86 of the Corey Shepherd podcast. Welcome back to everybody who's been listening. Welcome to all the new listeners. Available on all podcasting apps, always on YouTube, right on time. We are a day late, but we're here. It's Valentine's. Let's have a good Valentine's. This is a happy Valentine Day episode to everybody listening, all the ladies who's been listening. Happy Valentine's to the men too, man. Let's have a good time. This episode, or this month, we're supposed to be dealing with new music, but now we're going back into some of the old classic Love Kaisos, boy. Love Kaisos, you can't beat it.
Me lover, I have to mention in my confession to you, me lover, and must discuss what we should and shouldn't do. I said, me lover, a good relation is a relation based on trust. Me lover, we too jealous and suspicious. It's outrageous and ridiculous to see we messing up with mine. See how we messing up with mine. I tell you no.
You know, every now and again, always have to take a little dance with me, hold somebody and dance now.
Good time.
And if you ain't nobody, you know what to do. It's broom time.
Me lover, let's have a good time.
Hey, it's a love episode, a whole love episode. It had plenty of things to talk about, I feel like I wasn't here in about 2 weeks. So sorry about the day late. But I tell you, the woman tell me, I can't record nothing in the Valentine's. I had to do Valentine's things. I want to salute to everybody in my community here. My little squad, my home crew. I ain't gonna call no name and thing, but these fellas come together and had a nice little Valentine thing for the wives, you know what I mean? They put together something nice, and I was hosting that too, and I wanted to tell all you, I ain't recover yet. I'm gonna be going through topics very, very fast. I am not built to stay up past a certain hour in the night. You see me? I used to go in my bed very early. And we had an early thing. Let me tell you how the thing went before we get into the thing, right? We decided that we're coming together as the fellas. And we're doing a little sip and paint for the ladies. You know what I mean? Salute to Simone. Where's the C-Spot Sip and Paint? I hope I call the woman name right. But they bring us together and they do a little sip and paint. Everything virtual, right? So she comes online. She sends all the canvases and everything that we need. And we sit down and paint based on her instructions. I want to tell her this. Painting hard. Painting is difficult. I didn't know. This thing was stressing me out. I sweat. I don't know how people could do that, like neat and everything. So I used to paint the wall and them kind of thing. If that, you know what I mean? Maybe I don't make enough money to pay people to paint. But the little event was supposed to be a nice little Valentine. I had a love song theme. What do you call it? A love song playlist. There's heavy love song going down the line. I'll play some of them today from the Calypso or the Kaisos love songs, right? But it was supposed to be a nice sip and paint and, enjoy yourself, sip and socialize with the wives and the husbands and so on. But it get loose. It get loose very fast. I want to say salute to a guy named Keegan Barr. That is your name I call it. Then you want your event host, call Keegs because it's a different level of fun when Keegs have a mic. It's a problem. Keegs and the wife, it's problems. Trust me. Because what was supposed to be a nice, gentle evening of sipping and painting turned into an entire zest that finished 2 o'clock in the morning. I would like to apologize to all my neighbors. I'm feeling like if I was my neighbor, I would be upset the next day. So I want to apologize to all my neighbors who would have been disturbing the peace. But we don't do it often, right? And it was a nice day. It was all for the ladies, so I appreciate it. That was only Valentine's. Only had a good Valentine weekend. I know the Valentine could be a struggle this weekend too, because the gentlemen wanted to watch a little Super Bowl. Now, I wasn't interested in the Super Bowl whatsoever because there's a team by the name of the New England Patriots. We're not Super Bowl ready yet. Let me put it like that, right? So we wasn't around. We wasn't nowhere there. I don't think we was ever getting there. We get a good blood, but we make the playoffs. So all other teams should be a little bit worried when they see us making the playoffs. You know what I mean? We in the game. So salute to the LA Rams, formerly the St. Louis Rams or St. Louis. Is St. Louis or St. Louis? And fellas come through, and that was nice. Me watching on it, I wasn't interested. When I back in a team, I don't like to like. There are certain fellas in the area by me here. Man say he's a Man City supporter, right? But you're born in his 70s. I'm very wary of people like that. And you're born in his 70s, but he's a Man City supporter. Like it's like how when you start, when exactly you pick up. When did you get interested in this side? Right, I ain't telling nobody nothing. So all who became overnight Bengals and Rams fans, salute to all you. All you good to go. Good little Super Bowl. It was the little bit I catch in the end was decent. But what I do want to talk about for a few minutes before we get into this is salute to Jay-Z. Because Jay-Z is a man, he's a doer, you know. When you look at how Jay-Z's operate, right? Jay-Z got a position in the NFL that, I wish I had the position right, but responsible for things like the halftime show. I think it's entertainment related, if I'm not mistaken. And soon after he had the position, the issue about Colin Kaepernick was on the table. I don't know if you remember that. And the whole back and forth about him getting a tryout with all the teams and then he moving the stadium and thing. And that was why I had an issue with that. That is why I had an issue with that in the first place. For those of you who don't know the issue, Colin Kaepernick is an NFL quarterback. Google him, right? He had some issues with, he took issue with police brutality against black people, which I think all of us have that issue. And he started kneeling, right, during the national anthem. Now, we say he get that from a veteran, right, because he first started by sitting during the anthem. And a veteran told him that might be disrespectful to the troops and to the thing. So he asked the veteran what to do. And he said, boy, better you kneel. So, you know, it doesn't seem as disrespectful. And he started kneeling. Well, you know, people had problems with that. Mike Pence come in stadium to make sure no NFL players kneel. I don't know if I really remember all these issues. But he eventually lost his job with the 49ers. And, it's a good quarterback too, you know, dude named Alex Smith. But anyway, he lost his job to the 49ers, and he was out of the NFL. Well, a lot of people said he was blacklisted, right? Hard to prove that because the NFL is run like a cartel. It's hard. When you get into American sports, it's a hell of a way for a country that like to talk about the land of the free and the home of the brave. The way they do business ain't too free, you know? But anyway, Kaepernick was out. He say he blackballed. I think a lot of us would say he blacklisted or blackballed or whatever it is. And then they organize a trial for him to come back. So there's an opportunity for you to come back on a team after a few years out, right? And the man good, huh? And he changed the stadium last minute where they were supposed to go, and he didn't want to use NFL cameras alone. He wanted his own cameras to go there. That is why I was so disappointed a few episodes ago when I told you I watched the Kaepernick documentary. And it stopped before we get to this trial and all the things. I think if you wanted your own cameras there, I had to think that a part of that was to do your Netflix special and get deeper into your story and stuff. But this is why I had a problem with Kaepernick moving the way he moved. Because Jay-Z, I would think, clearly organized for you to get back a look at the teams. And maybe the teams didn't commit. They say we will give him a look. And if he's good enough, maybe they would have just do it and not give you any job. But look at what Jay-Z was able to put together last night in terms of Super Bowl night, in terms of black excellence for that halftime show. A little white excellence too, eh? Or West Coast excellence is what I should really call it, you know, because that man put together, it was all designed to be a Dr. Dre halftime show, a tribute to Dr. Dre. Let me start with my criticism, right? If I only had one critique of the thing, it would be that when you usually hear a halftime show headliner like a Madonna or they like the artists for the headliners, is their show, and they may bring on a couple guest artists, but is that individual who's hosting who performing for the Super Bowl halftime show, they announce that individual. And my one critique is that any one of the people who they had on this program or this bill could have hosted the halftime show on their own, whether it's Dr. Dre, Snoop, Eminem, Kendrick Lamar, Mary J. Blige especially. You know what I mean? I don't know if I'm missing anybody there. 50 Cent. Any one of them could have hosted their own halftime show. So that was my one thing, because it make it look like, you know, if you put Bruce Springsteen to host one, and then you put Tenawee to host one, it make it look like if Tenawee had to add up to one Bruce. I didn't like that too much, but boy, other than that, them men put on an amazing show. The set was amazing. It's on YouTube too, so if you didn't see this yet, there's a good time to run over, click over, check the halftime show. And it was, no matter what kind of music you're into or what you like, it was well put together. The set was well done. They had Snoop. And you know, it's so nice to see some of these fellas. When you look at the history of some of these guys and the crews that they roll with, how much men didn't make it, how much went to jail, how much they would have gone to jail, come back. It's so nice to just see them be able to have this moment and celebrate this moment. And I don't know, something about it make me feel especially good about Mary J. Blige. Just seeing Mary J. Blige on that stage, that I was good all the time. I had taken anything and thing, but when Mary J. come out there, bring water in my eyeball. Just like, sometimes you hear so much about her struggles coming up, trying to make it when she came out, and then recently he had this divorce where she had to pay this man a whole set of alimony or whatever it is he's called that they pay man. And to see her perform on that stage, and maybe the reason I feel that way is because, in a strange way, and this is just my feeling. Any one of them, let's take Jay-Z out of the equation. Maybe the NFL on their own would have given any one of the people on that bill to host the NFL halftime show. But somehow I don't feel they would have given Mary J. Blige on her own. I wonder if I unfounded in thinking that. I wonder if that's just me. I just felt like any one of them, Snoop, Dr. Dre, at some point the NFL would have come and say, Snoop, we will do a halftime show for us, and they put on a huge show. Because I remember them doing Black Eyed Peas and stuff, so Snoop and them have mass appeal and crossover appeal and big hits that are loved by all different races, genres, nationalities, whatever it might be. And Mary J has that too, don't get me wrong. But I just don't see the white-collar white folks in the NFL handing Mary J. Blige a whole halftime show to do for herself. So I was glad that they brought her in and she do an amazing job. Boy, listen, that was something else to see. I think 50 Cent was a surprise. I didn't realize he was on it, so he was good. I see all the making joke about 50 Cent on $1.50. No, okay, all right. A man can't get through if you can. Every other genre of people or background or race of people or whatever in music, just honor the legends and call them, they look so stately and thing. We just say 50 Cent on $1.50 because the man looking a little bigger and them thing. I saw a couple people too, mostly on Black American Twitter, saying they didn't bong for Eminem. And, to be honest, I don't find so. Eminem was one of the better parts of the whole show. I guess everybody was so good. Eminem was a nice addition to it. And I think that because it was a tribute to Dr. Dre in LA, you know what I mean? It's like a hometown tribute to him, his success, his music, his legacy. I don't see how you could leave out somebody like Eminem who was a part of his legacy, you know what I mean? So much, even these songs he chose to sing, he could have gone a different direction with these songs, but he sing, forgot about Dre. So, I mean, all that is to say, the whole show was really, really good. I find Eminem was good. I find Kendrick was powerful. I don't know Kendrick songs too much, I must admit. Only know an old man, I only like old music, so anybody too new, I doesn't too know them, So, but Kendrick choreography and the way they did it was great, but it's just black excellence, Jay-Z out there making black people look good. So I understand my problem with Colin Kaepernick now. When the man putting himself on the line, going out of the way to do things to put us in place to look like geniuses and put us in place to win. I don't think the best idea would be to just dismiss that and go about your own business if that was the case. But anyway, as we're talking black people, let's talk the blackest man in the world, Joe Rogan. Plenty of people tell me last week I was ducking the smoke with Joe Rogan. So let me start with Joe Rogan one time. I forget. All I tell you is COVID brain fog. Really, you're forgetting plenty. All you ain't gonna understand till all you reach where I is. I had Joe Rogan written down on my little PowerPoint I go through to know what I'm talking about next and all them things. And somehow I didn't skip it. And then when I finish the episode, before I take it out to go and edit, I click through the PowerPoint and I say, yeah, man, I talk about everything. They're good to go. You know what I mean? So I really forget Joe Rogan. I forgot. Sorry. So let me talk about it now, right? Let me say again that as I've said, maybe from episode 1, I like Joe Rogan a lot. I like his podcast, the style of his interviews, and think of this, right? When I initially started talking to people, I named it Conversations. Really, because I wanted it to be so conversational and not interview-like. And the reason I did that is because of Joe Rogan. It's because of watching his podcast for so long and trying to emulate his style of interviewing, the comfort that his guests feel. They talk about anything. And, it's like this, right? If you want to get to know somebody, a long time. And for those of us who didn't have a Valentine, right? Let me talk to all you who had no Valentine. If you didn't have a Valentine and you're on the hunt still, this dating thing could be difficult, especially at our age. When you reach our age and thing, it doesn't want to deal with too much of the dating thing. It's either you're good to go on movie, or you move out. You know what I mean? But when you're now getting to know somebody, one way to get to know somebody is to say, and think of this, ladies in particular. Think of a fella going on a date with you and they say, hey, how old are you? Where were you born? What do you do? What do you like doing? What are your ambitions? What are your 3-year goals? What are your 5-year goals? That conversation is end up real boring. And I find the same thing with interviews. When you're interviewing people and you're just asking them out from a checklist of questions, it's sterile, it's boring. So when I saw Joe Rogan, I started patting myself after him, because I believe if you have conversations with people, not necessarily about themselves, you have an opportunity to learn something about the person without even asking them direct questions like that. That's so boring and closed-ended and thing. It don't make for good conversation. So for the fellas now who go in and, I would tell you how I get through it, Stacey. In case there are many who are no Valentine and they're still trying to get through, I'm going to tell you how to get through. The conversation when you're trying to date or meet somebody or get to know somebody, don't ask the person too much about yourself. Don't talk too much about yourself either. Talk about what happened in news. Talk about regular things. So when you see that person, you say, oh, good, you saw Super Bowl, you watching thing, you into that? And then the person say, nah, I don't really watch things. So you don't watch sports at all? Yes, watch a little sports, but I find sports was boring because when I grew up and things, then you start to hear a little bit, all right, so the person don't like sports, and let the conversation flow from there. And so when I see where they grew up, I say, well, in St. James, you had to play sports, me, what part of Trinidad you grew up from that don't play no sports? And the person say, nah, I grew up in Sawa, and we used to play sports and things like that. So you don't know Jablote? And you could keep the conversation going that way. And I'm saying that when you do that, you get to know the person. So when I have an interview or a conversation with somebody, number one, I'm genuinely curious. Anybody who I'm talking to, now I'll tell you this, right? It takes a lot of effort to get to talk to people because it's scheduling issues and that takes a lot more effort than just coming here and talk by myself. But the point I'm making overall is Joe Rogan does it in such a smooth way. Talk about whatever the current affairs are and let that personality come through that. So some of my favorite episodes, if you want to go and check out his, I don't know if I'll canceling me at or what, but if you want to check out his episodes, for the exercise people, you have to go and watch David Goggins. Now, of course, my biases, right? So most of the Joe Rogan episodes I watch is with black people. I like black people. So David Goggins, if you're into exercise and them thing, you had to check that out. And I also read his book called Don't Hurt Me, which is audio book, right? Excellent book as well. And then for inspirational things like business and go-getting and motivation, you had to watch him with Kevin Hart. His episodes really give you a really good understanding of the person who you're talking to, a little bit more than just the show business side of the person, I think is what I'm trying to say. And there's another guy who is on, a white boy too, very much like Joe Rogan, similar, by the name of Jocko Willink. And Jocko Willink has a book called Leadership, Extreme Ownership or Extreme Leadership. He's an army man, a Navy SEAL, I believe, just like David Goggins. And his story is really, really interesting. And he has, since he left the Navy SEALs, used his teaching in the military to teach people about business leadership and discipline in life and so on. So those are people who I follow generally. And I like when they go on Rogan so I could see it. Other than that, a lot of comedians like Tom Segura is always good. Sebastian Maniscalco. He has a lot of guests that I wouldn't want to miss. But it's not a podcast like, for instance, Joe Budden podcast. No matter what happens, I'm going to listen to that every single week. I don't care what you're talking about. I don't care. Matter of fact, I prefer he don't have guests. I like to just hear them talk among one another. So Joe Rogan podcast to me is guest driven. I want to hear, if I like the guest, I will tune in. He is easily the number one podcaster in the world. And if you don't know the issue was that they pull up a compilation of him using the N-word. I'm going to stick to things like the N-word in this episode, right? To make sure me ain't no problems neither, right? And what are my thoughts on it? First, those clips are very, very old. As a matter of fact, that compilation of clips is very, very old. That has been around for a long time. So if you hearing it for the first time, I didn't hear it for the first time, and I didn't feel like I needed to cancel him when I hear it for the first time either. I will say that I feel a way. I didn't like it. Because a part of me understands the context, the way you were saying, because there were a few of those episodes where they pull it from that I was able to go back and listen to. This was before he moved to Spotify, right? when he was available everywhere and on YouTube, there was no cancellation of any episodes. Apparently, Spotify has already removed 100 and something episodes, which I guess would be deemed to be offensive or whatsoever, right? Or misinformation. We can talk about the misinformation separately, right? Let's talk about the race first. Now, I don't know if you could go back and find them N-word episodes, but I'll tell you this, and you have to take my word for it if you can't find it, right? When he uses the word more so to describe the issues he has with the fact that some people could use the word and some people can't. I want to tell you that this is not a unique thing to Joe Rogan. I honestly believe it's a common sentiment among white Americans. They don't like this idea. They find it stupid and it's this and it's divisive. Stay with me. They find it's divisive that there's a word that black people could use among one another for endearment, for fun, put it in songs, and then they had a rapper song and mute out itself. My jigger. I don't even know if this can say jigger because I don't feel comfortable with them saying jigger neither. Don't say nothing close to that as far as I'm concerned. Now, he also made some other comments. And again, some of them I heard for the first time. And I felt just like the way I felt when I heard that compilation the first time. One of them was that he went to see Planet of the Apes. I don't want to play this here, right? Because then it's too much trouble to take it out to the YouTube episode and thing. He was talking about Planet of the Apes and going to see Planet of the Apes in a black neighborhood. And he said the guy was telling him, boy, yeah, the place safe and everything. He said, when I come out of the car, we were in Planet of the Apes. It was meaning black people. He said, no, that song kind of racist, this, that. Listen, that song racist. I don't care what nobody tell me. When you say things like that, them things just make me very, very uncomfortable when I see white people saying that. And I don't know if you remember my joke about the bowling balls. I can't remember what episode that was. But I don't like when people say that. And the man was telling me that bowling ball joke was a black fellow. I don't like them kind of thing. You know what I mean? If you're saying it in endearment and you're saying it in rap and you're black like me, I might be able to tolerate it more because I say it myself. But you see when you use it, you know, one of the ways black Americans explain it is ER instead of A. I don't know if that is it for me, but when you use it with venom, is when I start to have a problem. So in other words, obscene language. Nobody don't cuss like me. But if you're cussing while you're talking to me, it don't bother me. But if you're cussing me stink, it might bother me. And if you're cussing when we home lying here, but if you're cussing on my children or my son, if you're cussing on my son or whatsoever it might be, I might feel so what I'm trying to say is the context matters and how you use it matters. So when I hear that Planet of the Apes thing, and then I also heard him have a discussion about with a guy who was talking about, I guess, how we made up, like a genealogy is the name of it, like a gene. So they were basically talking about the fact that black brains might develop different from white brains. So white people have an intellectual tendency, while black people have a physical and athletic tendency. And I don't read enough to know if any of that is true. It might be. I don't know. Because if for instance, you have a dog and you have all different kind of dogs, some dog trainable, some dogs like my dog ain't trainable at all. I wonder if there are things like that with human beings in terms of predispositions. I used to think so with Asian people and maths until I saw something on YouTube the other day saying it's not so much that Asian people they're born predisposed to be better at maths than us, like me. But they're saying that the language and the way the coding of the language, I could put it like that. They say that it makes numbers more intuitive. So it's easier for somebody who grew up speaking Mandarin, for instance, or Japanese, to be able to know what comes next because there's something related to two. 1 and 2 related together. When you think of it, right? Our words that we call numbers. I don't know if any of this making any sense. It's hard to say this way. Like we say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But the word 1 doesn't give you any indication that 2 is coming next. They're totally unrelated. They don't mean anything. Whereas with Japanese, or I can't remember if it's Japanese or Mandarin, they said that the words are designed to help you see what's coming next. So imagine you could go 1 to 10, then next after that is 11 and 12. So I say, all right, well, when you reach 20, it had to be 2011, 2012, 20. You know what I mean? But it don't go that way. The numbers is shit. I hope any of that I say makes some sense. But So going back to Rogan, I don't know if those discussions are valid based on research or anything like that, but hearing him talk about those things when you go on to say somebody have the perfect combination. You know, they have a white mother. I think it was saying they have a white mother and a black father. So or they mix a white and a black guy. So you get the white man brain and the black man physicality. Them things make me feel uncomfortable because it's not so much that when I go there, you wouldn't welcome me into your space if I am Charlemagne or David Goggins or Dave Chappelle or the hundreds of Kevin Hart or the hundreds of black guests that he's had on at the time. It just shows that if that's the way you see people, you're gonna treat them like that, and subtle things that you do that might not be there to intentionally hurt them or intentionally make them feel bad. Those subtle things going to come through in the way that you act. And to be honest with you, when I watch Joe Rogan interview black people versus when he interview white people, I find that there's a subtle difference. And I've been watching the show for a long time. And when I say subtle difference, I don't think it's offensive. I don't think he's mean or racist towards those people. I just think that when you see him interview Kevin Hart, you hear him talk about, boy, your work ethic, everything you do is so great. I could see you going hard in the gym, you're going hard into this, you're going hard into that, you know what I mean? You're amazing with those things, right? When he interviews David Goggins, because Goggins is a fit man too. He's like, you run so much miles, you're with Cameron Haynes. I respect that. I love that so much. You get your go-getter attitude. You used to be fat, and when you get slim and that. Those things, he sings high praise for those people. But you know how I always hear it sometimes? He and the people around him may not see the average black person as being either capable of being a Kevin Hart or willing to be a Kevin Hart. I look at it all the time. And it's well, you might be asking yourself, well, when I'm looking at it, why I'm looking at it, if that's the way I feel? Because I genuinely believe that a part of what we have to do is converse. We have to talk to one another so that we could understand each other. Let me bring Whoopi Goldberg in the equation, right? Whoopi Goldberg, in a similar time to Joe Rogan, made a statement about Jews saying that the Holocaust was not racist. The Holocaust was a inhumanity or crime against humanity. I can't remember exactly how she put it, but she was saying something like that, right? Jewish people were bothered by the statement, and the network at the time suspended her from the View for 2 weeks, right? And I don't think that was fair at all to suspend her for that. I find it's unfair. She make a statement, she was wrong. The statement might be coming from a place of ignorance. It might be coming from a place of trying to talk while you're on camera and you're saying what needs to be said. It might also come from a space where you have limited time to explain all your ideas. Because when you say something like that, people get at you. You try to defend yourself, you know what I mean? And you move past. But what happens is people cut the clip where you say it's not racist, it's this, it's that. And then you're in a spot and your boss wants to suspend you for 2 weeks. And the whole world against you because now you're coming across as racist. I don't feel they should have suspended Whoopi at all. Now remember that these are private companies. That I'm not comparing this to say that why is Whoopi suspended and Rogan not cancelled. I don't think Rogan should be cancelled. I don't think Whoopi should be suspended. But that is the choice of Spotify, who Joe Rogan is contracted to for content at least. And who's do the few? ABC? That's them people in a private business. Because let me say in my company, a man says some racist thing and we're going to lose a client. I mean, you for 2 weeks, 2 years. Me, I can't afford to lose no clients in this climate. So who knows? But the reason I continue to listen to Joe Rogan is because I think exactly what we doing or trying to attempting to do with him is what we need to do the opposite of that to be able to solve the problem. You see, I had difficulty with Whoopi Goldberg hosts. I don't like injustice. It makes me very, very uncomfortable. So if me and Whoopi hosting a show and Whoopi says something like that, then immediately gave what seemed to be a heartfelt apology to me. And then you come and tell her, all right, well, you're suspended for 2 weeks. As her co-host, I am not coming for 2 weeks either. Because on principle, it ain't right. Flashback to this, right? There was a time when Bill O'Reilly was on The View. This time, Barbara Walters was still there. No, Barbara Walters is Barbara Walters, right? Let us not forget what she has done and the legend that she is, right? All of them sitting, the ladies there, and he's in the middle. making what could only be seen as disparaging remarks against Muslim people. Basically saying that it's Muslim kill people in 9/11. Man, listen, it was bad. If it's my show, you cannot say things like that here. On my podcast, you come in and talk like that. We got to clarify that. You're not leaving until we clarify exactly what you mean by that. And if you continue to say that, I'm going to let you know that, listen, that racist like hell it is offensive to people. I ain't silencing you, but I'm letting it be known. You're not going to get away with comments like that. Which is what Whoopi Goldberg and Paula Daniel come into mind, which are wrong like hell. But there were two, Joy Beer. I'm not calling no wrong name. Whoopi Goldberg and another one of the co-hosts had walked off the set when he continued. Because, Bill O'Reilly, he started to talk louder and he started to remonstrate and the crowd cheering and hooting and who booing. And it was a little bit of a scene. It's still on YouTube now. And they both walked off the set. Barbara Streisand. I'm having a problem today. I tell you, it's COVID mental fog. Barbara Walters immediately said, what we just witnessed is exactly what this is not about. She said, we have a dissenting view. We have to talk it out. And that's the reason the show is named The View. You give your view, I give my view. Because the views that we have, I a wise couple fellas on a thing called Alternative Podcast. The Alternative Perspective Podcast. Two wise fellows was talking about the perspective you have is a sum total of your journey. Is like we get here in different places. We bound to disagree when we come together, but the disagreement is healthy. The disagreement is part of the journey again. So tomorrow we're gonna be in a different space. But this generation or this era that we're going through here, those seem to want to let conversations go on. If your perspective is different from mine, I don't want to hear nothing you have to say. I hate you. I don't want you to make no money. I want you trying to starve. That is the attitude of this generation. But Barbara Walters, I felt was right in the moment by saying that, listen, that is not what we encourage. We're not about that here. We should never walk off. This is a guest of our show. I can't remember her exact words, but it was so... I found her to be so wise in the moment. In a moment that would be hostile. It is live and, to come out and say that. And She said that, and she said, I love my co-host. And then she turned to Bill O'Reilly and she said, but having said that, I want you to know how venomous your words are. And this. So, listen, professionalism at its best. I wish I could get to be anywhere near what Barbara Walters is while I continue on my own journey. If I could get anywhere near that, I'm in a good place. And when she did what she did and she said it, she disarmed him completely. And he said, listen, I'm sorry. I apologize if da-da-da-da-da. And when he said that, Whoopi and the other host, they walk back on. And it's so funny how it happened. Whoopi ended up sitting down right next to him. And they would have continued the conversation at that point in time. Still haphazard and hostile. It wasn't nice, but it went on. So when I saw this same view, now Barbara Walters in there again, but when I saw the same view, the other co-hosts, who, regardless of if you were on that set or not, you are part of the legacy where a giant was able to say something like that and said, hey, this is not what we're about. This is not what we're for. We don't walk off on people. We're here to give our views and to hear the views of others. You in a space where something like that happened before, and you sit down and watch Whoopi Goldberg get suspended for 2 weeks after having given a view that was unpopular, it was offensive, it was misinformation. It could be a myriad of different things, just like Bill O'Reilly was. And when you realize that because people told you about it, because sometimes you say something, this has happened to me every week. I say something and then somebody call and tell me, hey, I disagree with what you said, I don't agree. And my first thing is great. Because I always feel like if people disagree with me, especially because of the listenership that I have on this podcast, when people disagree with me, I don't know I'm going to get a next perspective there. And this might make me see the world different and be a better person or be a better podcaster or broadcaster or whatever it is. I welcome that. So when I saw all of them continue with the show like normal, I say something wrong here, something not right. So none of them tell all the boss, hey, if you're suspending her for giving her point of view, our suspension coming next. So let me take my suspension one time. Because my view is not always going to be right. It's not always going to be popular. It's not always going to be correct in terms of the information that are given to people and so on. This is the reality of the thing. So I was surprised when I saw so few. Not that she didn't have voices supporting her, but it's like, how come the people who next to her just allow that to happen and go through and score, having been in the same space where Barbara Walters is so eloquently put it that, hey, we're here to give our views. Your view ain't gonna be right. Your view ain't gonna be popular. So how come Whoopi wasn't given that grace by her employers? You understand what I'm saying? So when you look at Rogan, it's the same thing. If I get a chance to talk to him, I would explain to him. I would say, "Here, what's going on, brother? I don't want it to be cancelled. I find the work that you do is great. I don't think you're racist. Like you want to stop opportunities for black people and all them kind of things. But all of us are a little bit racist. Sorry to lay it down. I think I had mentioned this in a much earlier podcast, right? When I was talking about a test for your racism. Will I remember to put that in the YouTube comments, boy? I'm just write it here and I'm hoping that I remember. If somebody call me and tell me if I forget now, they know I'm dealing with something, right? With the COVID thing. Racism test. The test is a questionnaire that goes through your how racist or your biases. That's what I'm trying to say, your biases, whether it's against gender or race or what. I'm telling you that when you do this test, you are going to be surprised that you might feel like you're not offending any other races or you're not. But we all inherit, because you it's a survival thing, right? You're more likely to believe, trust, and stick close to people who look like you, right? That's a survival thing. But anyway, I'll put it in there and you'll do the test and hopefully people will tell me the results, right? If you do the test, put the results in the comments now. Let me be open. Because that openness is what will propel the conversation to our next level. So, if I on Joe Rogan show, I'll say, yeah, Joe, but hear what? You see, when you say the N-word like that, this is how it make me feel. And let me tell you how it make me feel, right? When white people saying that, I feel like they don't respect what my generations before me went through enough to just leave it alone. So it's not so much that I hate you or feel that you hate me or anything. I just feel you don't respect it enough. And it may be because you don't know enough about it or you don't care to know or you're dismissive of it. Whichever answer it is, I just feel like you didn't take enough time. So let me give you an example, right? In Trinidad and Tobago here, there's a C word that we use as a derogatory comment or name against East Indian people, right? I ain't saying the word and I'll tell you why. The reason, and I'll tell you why I don't cuss on the podcast first, right? The reason why I don't cuss on the podcast is because I see Kivo do something and Kivo say his mother talk to him and tell him that the best you could do and you're cussing and he never cuss on nothing again. I say before my mother to tell me that, let me don't cuss. I could do it without cussing and I'll be fine, right? No, I'm not against nobody using obscene language because I use obscene language more than the average man. I watch out cussing exactly, cussing and you know what I mean? So I'm not here saying that anybody who uses that C word is a bad person or they're not. I believe in freedom of speech. People should be able to say whatever they want. You gotta keep in mind that with freedom of speech too. Things come back at you. You can't just say what you want and expect teeth not to scatter from time to time, right? But anyway, the reason I don't say that is because I am concerned about how not my Indian friends now, partner named Brian here, man. Long time he called me, like he let me go. And I'm a partner, fellow podcaster of the Brian Hiraman's Viewpoint. Brian is one of the best friends I have. I still Stacey all the time. And you see something happen to me here or when something happen to anybody in the family and thing, watch and see who you go come and see by this gate first. You know what I mean? So when I have a partner like that, he know me. So even if I make a joke and tell he that, Brian know me, I have no venom towards no race of people. And I ain't trying to. But even with that, I don't joke about it and I don't say it. You know why? Because I'm concerned about people of Indian descent that I might not even meet yet and how they may feel about me saying a word like that. I still have a job. I still have a business. We hiring people. I don't hire people based on their race and the this and the that. If you're good and they're doing the job, come and do the work. So imagine now I hire somebody, they're great at the job, they're working, we doing business together. There's somebody I want to keep. Imagine now that person was to see me somewhere or recorded, worse yet, saying this, that, and that, the other, and I using the C word loose. How I studying that person who I haven't even met yet. I studying how them go feel. You understand where I'm coming from? So this is where I have an issue with white people using that word so loosely. You should any word you feel to use. But when you use that word, my feeling is like, all right, you don't care about what I've been through. You don't care how that make me feel. You care more about making a point on a podcast. And I watched another podcast today with two white boys. They was good too, but they were discussing it and they're making the same point. And this is them white people pointer and white folks in the States. Their point is that the word is segregationist and why you want a word that's so divisive that some people could say, and it's either some people could say it or some people can't say it and all. All that might be valid and all those things might be good points. But at the end of the day, if you don't want to take the time to understand why somebody would be feeling a way about you using that word, or if you want to pretend like you don't know why people would feel a way about you using that word, you go ahead and pretend, but then don't give me no set of talk about the backlash about it. So Rogan intellectualizing about why a man must say N-word and who could say it and why it's a strange word, and even in one of the episodes baiting somebody as a joke to be able to say it. I don't like it. Will it make me cancel him or stop him? No. Do I agree with some of the things he say about the N-word and thing? I agree too. I feel like we as black people should stop saying that and stop. And not just as black people talking home. I talk more as black people who have platforms. All of them who we see in the Super Bowl show, who as soon as they finish performing, they say, hey, man, I don't think we should do that. I don't think that is helpful for us at all. I think that would have a lot of blood on it, a lot of pain, a lot of tears. I think if some of our ancestors were to come back and hear us talking about that in terms of love and endearment and so on, I feel they would be disappointed. I feel they would be heartbroken. You know what I mean? I feel they would be heartbroken. So that's my disappointment in Rogan there, where why bother? And he went on, I mean, he apologized and think the apology seemed heartfelt. Plenty people came out and apologized on his behalf. Well, not really apologized, but came out and defended him. People who know him well. And I was telling Oli the other day, it's taking Brian Simpson on Netflix, right? Name of the show is Stand-Ups, and the first episode is with Brian Simpson. And it's so funny to see Brian Simpson go on Instagram and say, Joe is his friend. He don't think Joe is no racist. But as a black man, he had to do his part and send Joe, I can't remember what he said him. That's some black item of clothing or something like that. It was funny, right? Check his Instagram. But it was so funny that in his special, he was saying that one of the things he know for sure about white people is all of them want to say the N-word. And his words was, it don't make 100% sense, but don't bother with it. And I think Rogan would have probably already reached that point on his own, because by the time his podcast becoming globally successful in the way that it did, I think he would know that clip. And he said that in the apology, he know that clip has been around. He says, I kind of relief that he gets to address it publicly and all that. But you know, this thing that's going, you probably 4 or 5 years down the road, they're going to resurface, and a bunch of people who never see it before going and see it for the first time, and maybe we'll get on our high horse and say that it shouldn't be used as well. Now, everything I say in sounding contradictory, right? So before I leave this, I want to address why I don't feel people should be censored and people should be able to cuss and say, if you want to say N-word and C-word and say the next C-word for white people, you could go and say all them words if you want. Just understand that actions have consequences, words have consequences, and the sentiments they express have consequences. So then why am I so open for the idea of freedom of speech? Because I do believe that censoring people from what they have to say or what they will say does not change anything. Like sociologists and stuff will tell you about a society being more than just the conversations we have in public, but the conversations we have in private. So by making certain words taboo, I think it intensifies the private conversations that people have around their dinner table. So the fact that you can't say it out loud when your black friends are around, it makes it taboo. It makes you want to say it even more when you're around like-minded people. So the first thing about freedom of speech I like is that it tells me who you are. So when I hear you talking like that, and this when I hear Joe Rogan on the thing, this is why I always watch him with Chappelle and with Tyson. He looks at these fellas with love and reverence in his eyes, almost as if to say, why all black people can't be like you? listen, you can't do me that, and that is getting me mad. You see this notion that, but look how good you do. You went to school and you thing and you get your thing, and don't come to me with that one of the good ones thing. That is getting me ignorant. You know, people just do that. Listen to how people talk to you. Just listen, observe it, stay quiet. I read a book once. Don't just shut up. Shut up and push the tongue against the roof of your mouth so you ain't even tempted to talk. Listen to the way people express things to you. So there's this thing that goes around when you're young and you're black and you're successful and you're good looking and thing like me. People just come and tell you, almost like, hey, use one of the good ones. Why all of them can't be like you? Why all of them couldn't study and go? Don't bring that to me. If you want me to get upset, that is garbage. That is barbershop talk, nonsense. Have no rooting in anything whatsoever. And this notion that people don't want to watch the circumstances of black people at all. So in all your mind, everybody equal. I hear these two guys on the podcast that they talking about that. They say, hey, boy, you know, all of us equal and what we're looking for is equality. Yeah, brother, but we started at minus. Due to your answer, they have no way of going forward at no equality till we address the injustices. So what Peter Tosh used to say, equal rights and justice, there will be no peace till we are equal rights don't go along without justice. So I don't buy into that talk at all. And this is why when somebody come to me with that one of the good ones, you know, I hear fellas saying rituals at times. Them fellas talking about it sounds like a construction project. And that man saying, I doesn't, how he put it, boy, he say, I don't mind hiring Creole. I say, excuse, I say, what you say? Well, you know, I's a whole part of that conversation now. In the conversation. And in that, I ain't violent, I ain't vexed, I ain't thing. I say, but how you make a statement like that? I don't understand. How you single out, like if, you know, I don't mind hiring Creole, no. It's just, I don't even want to know what is the it's just. That statement good enough for me to be a part of that. I don't do all the thing I come there to do. And in the midst of that conversation, because we good now. You see, sharing little perspectives has helped a lot, you know what I mean? Because sometimes people saying things and they're not sensitive to how hurtful some of them things might be. But when the conversation nearly done now, he hit me with one of them ice kind of IE, but use one of the good ones. Don't say them words to me. And that's why I always look at the people who go on Joe Rogan, the black people, and I see them defending him, and I see in some of them, like I saw Goggins' statement was one of the best I've seen, because Goggins liked to cuss. He believes in freedom of speech for sure. But he was on the podcast talking about how much people call him the N-word growing up and how hurtful it was to him. So he came out and he said, listen, I don't think Joe should be using this word at all, because when I trust you and I like you and I think those words going to be hurtful. I don't know if Joe Rogan not understanding that, but I wish more people would have expressed what Goggins had said. Don't just defend him. Don't just laugh about it. Tell him, because he respect you all. And in the midst of my interview, if I go on Joe Rogan and tell me how successful I am and this and that, and I would say, don't talk to me like if I'm an outlier. Most of the people who I know who black, they're just as smart as me. They're just as ambitious as me. Don't hit me with that I's one of the good ones thing. I consider myself lucky to get through some of the things I get through in life. And if you hear any one of them, when he's interviewing very successful white people, that level of reverence for success and this and that, it does not happen. So when you have Bernie Sanders or Elon Musk or somebody, you know, very, very successful white people, the conversation has been more like what I was describing in the beginning, where we're just talking about things and not talking about your life and how you get through. And wow, you did so great. And so I just listened for them little nuances. So that's me on Joe Rogan. I wasn't ducking the smoke. That take plenty longer than I thought. I'm still going to be listening to Joe Rogan episodes. I find this and maybe one more thing before I leave this, right? Because the race thing, you're going to have to make your own judgment as to whether or not you want to continue to listen to that. Because why saying hypocritical like hell? Because I feel in a way when he said it, but I don't feel no way when Kendrick said it, although I find he shouldn't say it and anything. But we would not be having this conversation if Jay-Z had said this. It's really only because a white person said it, which in the wise words of Brian Simpson, it don't make 100% sense, right? So you got to make your own judgment as to what you want to go along with. Because there was a point in time in my life where if anybody of any other race say that to my face, I could have swing, right? Last thing I want to talk about with Joe Rogan is this idea of misinformation, right? it seems as though the misinformation, I using the term that they put out, right? The misinformation about COVID is what causing people to want to cancel Joe Rogan. And now they find some additional ammunition because the Twitter page that pushing all the Joe Rogan missteps is called Patriotic Somebody or the other. And they were also against Rogan for his quote-unquote COVID misinformation, right? No, that's an interesting one, because it's so related to what we talked about before with Whoopi Goldberg, where there's this thing bubbling up with mainstream media versus podcasters. I don't know if you're paying attention to it, but it's a general thing in the States. Now, what I would tell you is that what they call in mainstream media cannot do the numbers that Joe Rogan doing per episode. They're nowhere near. You get me? And there's one man sitting down talking to one person with the same exact production every week. No big, you know what I mean? It's so much simpler. So it's a threat. If somebody audience much bigger, in other words, the revenue potential is higher and the cost of delivering the product is much lower. You tell me what will happen to which business over time. So a part of it is the traditional media, or what they call mainstream media now, trying to defend their position and make sure that they still have a business when tomorrow comes. So the word is that the racial argument, because I don't know when since patriotic America and white America so against people using the N-word that them picking up this as an issue, because they also have video going around with Joe Biden saying the word, this man is the president. You understand? So I don't know when since this is, I see why black people will pick up this issue over and over and over again. So I ain't surprised when the black media pick it up, but the white media making this an issue, that seems to be a business battle, if you ask me, right? But the thing about misinformation is this, and the idea that somebody still believes that mainstream media is where we must get good information and this and that and all that. Those things going out the door. Because, for instance, I expect that when I go to the Express, let me use Trinidad as the example. I expect when I go Express, Guardian, Newsday, I expect to get real good information, solid information. I want some opinion on them things too, but I wanna know that when I read the Express and I say this and this and that happened, I want to know that on factual ground, right? When I read the Bomb and the Mirror and the Blast, you remember them thing? I kind of know what I sign up for. Additionally, when I listen to my favorite podcasts on them, I want to take in my boy Brian Hero, man. I know I sign up for there too. So I, as a listener, have a little more latitude for a podcaster who seems not there's not a big production budget. There's somebody cracking the mic and talking. Versus when I watch Fazir Muhammad on a morning. And I would say that is an important part of it, because no matter what, when you sit down in front of a mic, for my average episode is 1 hour and a half, boy, you're going to say some nonsense, yes? And that's why I don't do this live, because if I do this live, I will say even more nonsense. So that is a risk that you will face, all of us will face when you're doing broadcasting of any kind. But the responsibility of journalism is going to increase the bigger your brand gets. I don't think it have anything to do with podcasting versus mainstream media and all this thing people talking about. Once your brand starting to be very, very big, people going to believe and hold on to the words that you say. You're not like, small time podcaster again. It's Joe Rogan. So your burden of proof is higher on you. Because number one, you're reaching much more people, but now you've built a brand is about trusting. When you talk about a brand like Nike that I like a lot, what you're really saying is that you trust the Nike brand to deliver on the promise, right? So when Joe Rogan brand is where it is now as one of the biggest media personalities in the world, you have to take a little more responsibility for the things that you say. So the COVID thing is valid, but I want you to keep this in mind, right? There's a thing they call institutional reflexivity. You don't long me talk about this. They used to talk about this in consumer behavior, right? Early days of marketing, real philosophy thing. Eh? This is no practical course at all. These are a course called consumer behaviors. It's deeply rooted in psychology and socialization to try to understand how consumers behave. And one of the things we used to tell classes is that there's a thing called institutional reflexivity. So when I went to school, it had people named Carib and Arawak. And then nowadays call them Tainos and Kalinagos, right? There was also a planet called Pluto. And me is so sure right now if Pluto is still a planet or not. No, I want you to just keep in mind, right? That it have things that you went to school that they beat you to learn. Licks. They used to beat me on the back of my calf, licks every day. And then they turn out and say years after, they say, well, you know what? That is not true. Pluto is not a planet. Or whatever the things might be, right? I'm sure you have examples of this as well. So that is what I call institutional reflexivity, because the pretty thing about it is very big institutions like the WHO and the CDC and whoever it might be, or the university system or the education system or governments, right? Or let me call it very big brands. They have to continue doing the work that they do and making the best of the situation that is in front of them if we want to propel this world forward. Or in Joe Rogan case, if you want to continue providing information for your listeners. Or let me use my small case as a example. If I spend all the time in the world trying to wait for perfect information before I crack the mic every week, I will never have a podcast. So when they talk about institutional reflexivity, what they're saying is that the institution is going to make the decisions or make the recommendations they can based on all the information they have. But if next week come and they change what they say, so for example, Fauci come out and say, boy, you don't need no mask, don't get no mask, right? And then a little while after, he say, boy, here, well, you're going to need a mask, right? True. And then now he say, here we're going on, you see them cloth masks, forget I get an N95 mask. Those things will fall under institutional reflexivity because the man role and his level of responsibility, they have to take actions based on things. So as new information come to the table or things change, they can use their reflexes to make adjustments, right? And when they make them adjustments, we go along with the adjustments. I want to put it here that these things happen all the time. It happens all the time. But COVID seems to be one of the more controversial issues. So the question that people had is with Joe Rogan is whether he's taking enough precaution in the things that he's saying when it comes to encouraging, or I don't think he was encouraging people to not get vaccinated. I just think he was trying to push back against the idea that everybody needs to be vaccinated. His thing has always been, from the beginning of COVID, he was talking about increase your metabolism, is immunity. Increase your immunity, exercise more, eat better, and all those things. And he kept saying, why is the CDC not promoting getting yourself more healthy? Why are they pushing the vaccine over there? So where institutional reflexivity comes in, I think Joe Rogan at this stage now where he's an institution, he know one person talking again. I suppose he's learning that the hard way now. And his facts and the things that he presented need to be more researched, which he also said in his apology, and more balanced. But I think that both sides have to allow for the latitude for the other side to continuously change their mind. This is the COVID is as controversial as it is because it's new. We're learning it as we go along. So I don't see why there's a need to condemn everybody who would have had misinformation or put out misinformation about COVID. And I'm talking about the way some people condemn Fauci and the CDC and the WHO and all them. And so no, we don't believe nothing you say, we ain't doing nothing you do. But and I also find it's the same thing too. I don't see the value in condemning Rogan to the point where you want him off the air. You don't want him to talk no more. So your idea is to silence his voice completely so that he can no longer say anything at all. I don't see why. If you're calling for him to have more balance, call for him to have more balance. If you're calling for him to fact check more or present more facts, that is a different thing from trying to shut him down. All right, that's enough. I feel like I overcompensate because I didn't talk about this last week. So let me get back in my country and talk about what it is we do here, right? Gypsy. See how simple life could be? Tuco boss hits Gypsy's Calypso events assurances. I don't know how we transition from that to that. Eh? I think that's it for you foreign news, no? Is it? Let me make sure. I don't want to forget nothing, so I'll come back to this. Now, I have a little more foreign news. Well, let's talk about Gypsy first. Gypsy and them. I tell people last week, the government are right putting on no events and saying, leave events and leave business for the private sector. Government is policy makers, not business people. So, reading from the news there, this is Melissa Dougherty. Doughty, right? The staging of this year's National Calypso Monarch and Extempo Monarch competitions remain in doubt, even as executives from the NCC and Tuco were said to be locked in a meeting on Monday evening to try to hammer out a deal. This came after the Calypso Monarch prelims were postponed on Saturday, while the Extempo prelims were postponed on Monday. And the crux of the matter is Tuco being given $1.5 million out of the NCC's 15 million Taster Carnival budget, when Tuco originally asked for 2.5 million. Its President Ainsley King said that 1.5 million is not enough to stage all of Tuco's Taster Carnival events, including Calypso and Extempo. King also took NCC boss Winston Gypsy Peters to task for giving assurances as reported in the media that the Calypso Monarch competition will go ahead, even as questions over its staging remain unanswered up to Monday evening. Salute to everybody involved here. This is the way. This is Carnival. Carnival is Bacchanal and Bacchanal is Carnival. Listen, this is why government and no right is the same thing I was saying last week. How you going to commit to thing saying you're going to get between 35 million or whatever it is when you didn't get the money yet, or you ain't get confirmation that is what you have. So now you have 15. I have no doubt that Tuco must tell Tuco, well, here what? All you need at 3.5, you had that. And now it's gone down to 1.5 and they're saying we still have to do it. And the reason we still have to do it is for political reasons. The reasons that these two institutions fight in here have nothing to do with the culture. Who was the baby in the Bible again when they say it was to cut the baby in half and the next one said let the next mother keep it? Well, remember that? This is what happened with these two people. NCC is the National Carnival Commission and Tuco is Trinidad Unified Calypso Organization. These two people cannot work without one another. It have no carnival without Calypso, and if Calypso ain't driving it, how are you supposed to say that? It have no carnival without Calypso, and it have no Calypso without a carnival. Wait. I feel like it have a Calypso without a carnival. No, scrap that statement. These two people need one another for this thing to function, right? So again, if we had private sector or we had business people, I want to stay away from the word private sector, because the feedback again during the week sounding like if when I say private sector and 1%, people only thinking about Sabga and Babood and Hadid and Milan Masi. When I say private sector, I mean me and you. Me and you decide to have a Calypso Monarch competition. You and I, we register a business and we go and do that. No, forget big business. All business starts somewhere, right? So we would have have a different approach to this. The postponement of events. Imagine we invest in something and then all of a sudden when the event comes. Let me give you an example, right? Me and my father, we had events before. We used to do seminars where you're bringing in people to talk about different topics. We can't postpone them thing when we committed to that. There's no postponement of it because when we have to book a speaker to come here, you have to pay the person airfare, pay the hotel fee, pay, you know what I mean? You done committed, you done commit to the venue, you have a certain amount of food, you have to, it's business and it's risk. So they have to, and then now we had to study, oh God boy, the thing bus, we ain't making no money on the event, but we also had to make the event very, very special for those who show up. So sometimes we make sure we pack out the venue using different types of strategies, right? We make sure people come so that it still feels like a successful event and so on, because I study next year. I try to make sure that I could sell back to these same people to have a good experience next year and increase the amount of people I could sell to make this thing profitable. But the problem is that the government and institutions like NCC and Tuco and thing, failure has no consequences to them. When you fail in business, you're going out of business, you bust, that is it. You had to change your name, start from scratch again. Sometimes you sign personal guarantee, the bank come in for your house and your car. It have real consequences to business. But what is the consequence when Gypsy and them postpone Extempo? Or the artists and them go make fuss, everybody go vex, everybody go think, they will say this and that, but all that is talk. Gypsy job as the head of NCC, not in any jeopardy. As a matter of fact, to go back to the article, a Sunday Newsday report quoted Gypsy saying on during I-95.5 radio interview that there would be a Calypso Monarch prelims, semi-finals, and the finals at the Marsh Gras. I can assure you right now that there will be Calypso in a Taster Carnival. I can give you that assurance that will happen. It's not that it may happen. It's not that it might happen. I'm saying to you, it will happen. We will have Calypso, and we will have Calypso in abundance. That's the way it's supposed to be had. So the man making these assurances, doubling down on everything that he had to say, largely because there's very little consequences. The decisions that these men making political, I'm talking both sides of the fence here, right? There's political decisions being made here. And the culture or the effect or impact on the culture, it's purely incidental. So going back to private businesses, I would like to congratulate Illusions for having what looked like a nice little event to me. No, I want to say that these ladies been waiting to dress up. When I see the outfits and the illusions, some outfits was an illusion of an outfit. It wasn't an outfit itself. But these ladies been waiting to come out. And the other time, they say you can't call it a fete, right? It was a concert type event. And it was nice. I see some performances, little rainfall, people was a little out there, little see-through, little slit, and a little slit, you know what I mean? So that's what Carnival is about. And we are watching it, Stacey and all, we watching it, and we saying, but this is what Carnival come to, boy. This is a fete, but at least we have something that people could make do with. And I doubt illusions would have said, boy, here we're going on. We don't have enough money to put on this, and we only get 1.5 million. We can't put this on, so we're not sending nobody. And that probably wouldn't happen in the private sector. And if it does happen with the private sector, it don't cost the taxpayer no money. You know what I mean? You go and play foolishness with your business and thing and see if you lost all your money. And taxpayers have nothing to do with that. You go and go look for work or start a next business. Start to promote a different kind of party. So salute to illusions. I didn't see any more. I don't know if I missed any like private events over the weekend, but I did see that Second Star, a few of the artists having performances or shows, or I don't know. I don't want to use the word fete. And I also see Whoopi and them come and say they open up the slides. The slides will be back for Carnival weekend. I feel like that. You see right now my immunity up, you know. My immunity up. I feel like that. They're going to slide and them thing. I wonder if it's a watercolors or something they're bringing back, boys. So private sector versus public sector. All you understand what I'm saying? And then listen, I want to, feedback in these events has come hard and fast when I talk about these topics. You know, I find I used to bypass so much of these things. I never knew people would be so interested in this. But as a long time listener, I want to salute my guy Al and Mrs. Al for giving me some different perspectives on things last week when it comes to the business. I still feel the same way. I don't think government should be involved. So one of the some of the feedback I got was, so for instance, government might want to be involved in business for the purpose of legacy of the country. I think it's a real valid comment. So for instance, having the whole of Carnival as private sector may not benefit like the Blue Devils up in Paramount, because the commercial viability of that may not be great. I was watching NCW The Entertainer today. He had a post on his Instagram. Let me get people's Instagram name right and thing, because I only directing people in the wrong direction right through. But he reposts somebody on Instagram and they were talking about the legacy of Abasina. I didn't know what that was at all. The name of the person on Instagram is Devon.Adano. DEVONNE.Adano. Adana is ADANNE, right? NCW, the comedian, is the person who reposted it, but she talks a lot about Tobago issues, and she was talking about Abasina playing a black devil back in the days in Tobago. And you ever hear the Calypso song? Abasina, oh, who you have the breaking down me door. That's internationally recognized song. She touring on that song all over the world. Eh? And Mr. Dana was referring to Sparrow, Shadow Pay the Devil. One Abasina, a hero of man, portraying Lucifer with a fork in his hand. Back. You remember that? So characters like those, like the Dam Lauren, the Midnight Robber. I was using the example of stick fighting last week, but this might be a better example. Those are things that should be preserved regardless of commercial viability. I'm a guy named Omari Ashby, wise man, tell me at time, or said at time, why the only thing we measure for success is commercial viability? It rocked my axis, you know. Because I was at that point where I'm looking at the commercial viability of this podcast and I say, boy, I'm putting my time into something. But when he said that, I understood loud and clear. He wasn't even talking to me, but it reached me. Because not everything is going to be commercially viable. That does not mean it's not good. It's not worthy. It's not worthy of preserving. So I understand Mrs. Al's point. And it's a very good point. And I'm not saying that we should not preserve those. I just think that the government should not go into businesses where those things concern. So they have different ways to preserve legacy. So the example would be like Angostura, for instance. The government holds shares in Angostura. And that would make sure that Angostura remain a local company. I don't know. because the inefficiency with people like Gypsy and them is wise be worried about is stop big brands from becoming are much rather Angostura in the hand of CL World brands, because Duper will continue to be Trinidadian, but he will also make the best decisions for that company. SM Jalil is as much as a part of our legacy as a company like Angostura, and it had no government ownership on that, and they continue to grow globally. So I understand the idea of preserving our global brands, whether it be in the culture or it be in the rum or in our history or even our parks and so on. I find like we play the fool with that so much. Like I remember going to San Francisco and going to Alcatraz. And Alcatraz is listed, that used to be a jail, right? And it's just an island. But it would be in the prison system, but now it's maintained by the parks and recreation facilities. That is government run, state run, right? So that when you pay them to go to that, all the money that is generated from that, it goes back into parks and recreation and so on for people to maintain, to have a certain amount of what do you call that? Recreation. That's important for your own well-being, right? So those things I agree with. What we used to call in economics, we used to say public and merit goods. But I don't understand why the government getting into a business like rum for the sake of profitability. For what? Yeah, I don't see where they're going to be more profitable. What you can do to preserve things like that is pass laws, set policy for what companies can sell what amount abroad, or get involved directly in making sure that the legacy of people like Angostura. So instead of Angostura building its own museum, maybe that's something you could come into and say, okay, we have a business museum. So when you have the E-Tech Park, we have a business museum. Angostura, we want to partner with you using state funds to preserve your legacy, make sure that, so no matter if you have to produce in a different country because of efficiency, you should do that. But we want to maintain the base of the company in Trinidad and Tobago, because this is what it means to the country. This is not unique. This is what Silicon Valley is. Silicon Valley is not a private investor going and do things. Silicon Valley is the state coming together and saying, okay, let us organize resources in such a way that it is attractive for private sector to come here and build businesses, so that my Apple and my whatever other companies, Microsoft, and them remain American in the face of global competition. Facilitate, you know what I mean? All right, what else we have to talk about? This episode gonna be a little long. This is an hour and plenty. We really talk about that. You know, with all that, I forget we're supposed to be playing. This is a love episode. This is supposed to be a Valentine's thing. I want to play for you one of my favorite love Kaisos. This is your voice for Lord Melody. There's no order or reason or rhyme to this COVID fog, right? Lord Melody. The name of the song is Crazy Love. Tell me if you know it. You know, for me, this is how Kaisos supposed to song, you know. Listen to music.
If you want me to love you, you got to love me too. Girl, I'm telling you. If you want me to love you, you got to love me too. Girl, I'm telling you. Donkey ears are loving you. I can't get a kiss. Oh no, darling, what kind of love is this? Your crazy, crazy love is what I'm dreaming of. Your heart can be, and my heart seems to be. Darling, love me or let me be free. Anytime I ring you on the telephone, girl, you're never home, and you tell me your mother doesn't let you out of sight. Whether day or night, girl, you're playing with me, love. I'm a jealous man, don't try, no screw, or else trouble in this land. Your crazy, crazy love, your crazy love is what I'm dreaming of. Your haunting me, and my heart seems to be. Darling, love me or let me be free. don't tell me your family don't like to see my face. But that's not the case. The important thing is that I love you sincerely. Do you love me? Living without loving you is unhappy life. Once more, I beg, darling, will you be my wife? Your crazy, crazy love. Your crazy love is what I'm dreaming of. You're haunting me, and my heart is to play. Darling, love me or let me be free.
Voice of the great Lord Melody, right? They have no transitions in this episode, right? Prostitution, not only a Chaguanas problem. Reading from the Trinidad and Tobago Express, written by Anna Ramdas. Operations of prostitution then should be named and shamed, as prostitution is not a problem in Chaguanas alone.
I've never been to a whole house.
But in other parts of Trinidad and Tobago, said Chaguanas Chamber of Industry and Commerce President Richie Suklal.
I've never been to a whole house.
Last Friday, during a parliament sitting, Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley said there's a high demand for prostitution services from the Venezuelan migrant community.
I've never been to a whole house.
Particularly in the borough of Chaguanas. I don't know why Rowlers are singled out. I find you know a lot about those.
I've never been to a whole house.
I find you know a lot. For a man who say he never been certain places. Well, I guess he's the Prime Minister, so supposed to know what's going on everywhere, right? So the man say, particularly in Chaguanas, it is fueling the growth of human trafficking of Venezuelan nationals.
I've never been to a whole house.
Rowley referred to a document prepared by the Venezuela Investigative Unit which reached this conclusion. Suklal told the Express there's no need to address the issue with proactive measures. There's need to address the issue with proactive measures. He goes on to say, many times these establishments have been raided in the past and they seem to pop up back. Why they do this? Who? Anna Ramdas, he couldn't fix up the thing. Many times these establishments have been raided in the past and they seem to pop up back with no one being held accountable. This is where the authorities need to step in. If you know who the big fish are, name them, shame them, and put them out in public so that they will be held accountable for their actions, he told the Express via phone yesterday. Sukai said there's an issue with xenophobia against the migrant community, and they also need to put checks in place to regularize them and ensure that they are in progressive work beyond the registration exercise that was previously conducted. What else he say here? He says there has been talk of this type of activity in different areas at TNT for years. It is not a new phenomenon. Singling out one area, especially without concrete evidence, although I mean, Sukai, the eyeball test in Chaguanas, right? I live all about, and I like Rio. I'm a traveling man. I live in St. James, St. Augustine, San Fernando a couple of times. And Chaguanas, and I was saying, the eyeball, look like a lot of, you know what I mean? And not just living in Chaguanas, but when we wanted to leave other areas to visit places,
I've never been to a whole house.
We used to come Chaguanas, you know, chase with call name. As a country, if the authorities know and have collected evidence of such activities taking place in certain areas, they should act on it. I agree with Sukai. Going back, I must be like a recurring decimal in this podcast, yes, because I always come in to say the same thing. We need to stop this thing where we finding a way, regardless of what the issue is or who the issue is we finding a way to make it about the opposition and the government. So this is really an opportunity for rollers to say, all your opposition, all your support, all your supporters, this is the kind of business always run. This is the kind of business always run. This is what all the financiers up to, and you know what I find as a prime minister, you have to remember that usually prime minister, you know what I mean? You can't just be loose with your statement. And I can't remember if it's Arnold Roberts. I hate when I don't agree with Arnold Roberts and Ian Allen and them too much, you know. But I find for a man who like to say these things, right? I find you know a lot. But anyway, this is I ain't gonna lose track again. You know, this is a Valentine's episode, and in the spirit of love and these types of houses, I want to play a song by Lord Kitchener the Great. I have a Kitchener song to play before the end of this, because I'm still going to play a new song before this episode. And I don't know how long this episode is up to this point, but I have a new song to play that is based on a Kitchener song. But as we're talking about love, and we have to remember that everybody does love differently. This is a song by the great Lord Kitchener by the name of Grenadian Mail. Listen to the lyrics good.
A bounce up Grenadian mail. Last week Saturday. A bounce up Grenadian mail. Last week Saturday. Well, I try a trick on she to get she in me batchy. Can't catch myself yet. What she didn't tell me is what she forget. Who must be think Grenadian a fool? Who must be think we not go to school? Who must be think because we come here we starving in Grenada today?
You damn lie.
I gonna tell you Trinidadian. Among you can't fool we Grenadian. Back a ground, money a hand if you fancy this Grenadian. She start getting hot and start to prop her like a parrot. You Trinidad men, you like women but don't like to spend. Well, I'm going to make it clear, I don't get in who I am. So I hope you know, I got no time if you got no dough. Who must be think Grenadian a fool? Who must be think we not go to school? Who must be think because we come here we starving in Grenada today? You damn lie, I gonna tell you Trinidadian. The days for the gun with Grenadian. Back a ground, money a hand if you fancy this Grenadian. Well, I start to plead to see what effect it's gonna take on she. I said, darling, this is true. I am madly in love with you. She put she hand akimbo and watch me from head to toe. Man, you're talking crap. I can't take love in the Chinese shop. Who must be think Grenadian a fool? Who must be think we now go to school? Who must be think because we come here we starving in Grenada today? You damn lie, I gonna tell you Trinidadian. Among you can't fool we Grenadian. Back a ground, money a hand if you fancy this Grenadian.
A matter of fact, say the last verse too.
So I promise she, I gon' give she half of my salary. It ain't long to wait, I get paid on the 28th. She said by the time the grass growing,
yes,
you don't know the horse starving.
Kitchen a good day, give me a ring when you get your pay. Who must be think Grenadian a fool? Who must be think we not go to school? Who must be think because we come here we starving in Grenada today? You damn lie, I gon' tell you Trinidadian. Among you can't fool we Grenadian. Back a ground, money a hand if you fancy Venezuelan. Hey, nothing new under the sun in this country, Dread. So I don't know if Kitchener was singing about Chaguanas in particular. You know what I mean? I don't know if it was particularly about Chaguanas because Kitchener is a man. Been wrong, you know. So I don't know if he was talking about this goodly Borough. But I think Sparrow had some things to say too that we had to agree with, you know.
Pack up, she closed to leave because John was down and out.
Yes.
All alone he was left to grieve. She had an ex-man in South. She said, openly, I really love you, Johnny, but you ain't have no money. So what will my future be even though you love me? We can't love without money. We can't make love on hungry belly. Johnny, you'll be the only one I am dreaming of. You're my turtle dove, but no money, no love. Bam, 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 bam. Whoa, 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 mama. Yeah. Find some money, Johnny. Whipper. If you hear how we plead with she to get she to understand, listen, mister, she tell Johnny, let go me blasted hand and make up your mind. We got to break up this lime. She said poverty is a crime. You got no money, but you're tangling me all the blinking time. We can't love without money. We can't love on hungry belly. Johnny, you'll be the only one I am dreaming of. You're my turtle dove, but no money, no love. Gentlemen, let me tell you plain. She say I don't want to make a scene, but if you only touch me again, the police will intervene. You ain't got a cent. I couldn't even pay my rent. I had to give up my apartment. You give me nothing to eat, now you want me to sleep on the pavement. We can't love without money. No, we can't make love on hungry belly. Johnny, you'll be the only one I am dreaming of. You're my little dove, but
no money, no love. So listen, I don't know if it's them they're talking about, because Sparrow didn't say that much Chaguanas, and Sparrow said no money, no love for all of us.
I've never been to a whole house.
All right, I'm done. Back to the States. Too much back in Ireland, Trinidad here. After a few more love songs to play now, fitting in all my love song and them in this here. And I hope all have some love Kaisos too. Like a porn, all love Kaisos. Oh, Valentine's don't last no whole weekend thing. You know the thing about it is people, I don't know what people take on this, because I see a debate going on online now as to whether Valentine is a pagan thing and we shouldn't be celebrating that at all. I used to think a lot like that about all the thing. They commercializing this and it's only about money and all them things. I believe that is true, but I also kind of find like, when you're going all the time, all these professionals, right? You have 100 different things going on. The little holiday or the little things is for man like me and you to commemorate something, you know what I mean? Sometimes if you leave it up to mankind, we wouldn't make a single day special no time. You had to like man for that. As far as some of us concerned, including me. Once all the bill pays and the bed ain't wet and everybody bottom dry, they used to say that with the babies. Once everybody good, we good. And we think we're doing what we have to do. But it's nice when you have a day when you could get to stop and acknowledge everybody. So I'm saying again, salute to my little community here where everybody get a chance to, and fellas make me sing for the wives and thing. Me and so in this singing thing. Well, anyway, I see a headline this week, right? And I was very, very confused. It happened in the States, right? So all of you who's be listening in the States, all you had to help me understand this, right? The headline saying, is the Biden administration really funding crack pipes? No, I see this going on last week and I say, but wait, how is this a thing? Apparently, it's part of a bigger relief program, right? That's the idea is to help people who have addictions and dependencies and so on. And I appreciate that and I understand that, and I think that is a great idea, right? So, as we're only talking about Chaguanas and activities in Chaguanas, I always used to say, coming up as a young fella, I used to say, boy, listen, them things should be legal. If a man have a house of, house of ill repute, whatever you want to call it, and somebody decide they're going to pay their money, and it's fair exchange, you know what I mean? Demand and supply, the first profession, whatever you want to call it. My opinion always used to be, if somebody choose to do that, and somebody choose to pay, then I don't see the victim. I don't like the idea of victimless crime. Like, who is being hurt when two people decide to make a fair exchange, pound of flesh for security, or whatever I'd say, right? But you see the Venezuelan migrant issue making me start to think about this differently, right? So think about this. If people join in that profession out of desperation, or if people being coerced into that profession, where you hear these stories in Trinidad and Tobago, people passport getting taken away and people being shipped to different countries and people getting drugged and forced to work, sex work and things. That's something that I can support. I'm not sure if there's value in separating the two things, because I could tell you, if I was a woman, it's better you don't say that, right? Because you only know what's happening when you're in your shoes. But I see some hard times in this life as a man. I make some considerations already. I know if I was a woman, I might not go with Chaguanas to do it, but I would have be Ivy. I would have said, Johnny, what's going on? I like it, everything, Johnny. But bills had to pay, so on to the next one. Like I watching Forrest Gump. I don't know why Forrest Gump was our Valentine's movie. But you ever noticed with Jenny? This was what Jenny was trying to tell Forrest, and Forrest ended up making loud money and thing. But Jenny line had been on listen I for these streets, I had a hustle too. We had two different lives. But when Forrest come back and settle down with the millions and things, Jenny can make sure Forrest have a little baby Forrest and somebody to take care of. I'm strongly against any situation where people are to be forced or coerced into a situation like this. And I feel for anybody who in that position. But as far as I'm concerned, if it's consent and it's open and thing, let people do what they have to do. Yes, well, like come Chaguanas. That might be a tourist attraction. That might be something we could use to uplift the borough of Chaguanas and ease up some of the traffic, widen some roadways and so on. You know what I mean? So what I had to do with this issue with Biden. People with substance abuse is another area where you find like people, you know what I mean? Everybody hear these stories already, right? Where you're addicted to something and you're doing anything for money. Wink, wink. So, your boy Biden and them trying to curb this issue. Now, my question about this has always been the same, and it's so related to what my thoughts are on sex work. It's like, why are drugs illegal? Why they have a separation between legal drugs and illegal drugs and so on? Why not get everything under controlled substances? Because I remember reading about this many, many years ago about Amsterdam and the fact that they have their, both things free in Amsterdam. You have a safe zone for the consumption. I'm trying not to be like rollers.
I've never been to a whole house.
I don't want to use crude words like that. I want to say, if people are into sex work or people are into recreational drug use, they make facilities available for them, both if you want to use it and you're responsible with how you're using both businesses. Or if you get too deep in the business, there's a lot of support for people to be able to get out so that you're not addicted and it's not leading to any degradation of society, if I could put it like that, right? No. The reason I always found that fascinating. Like the first time I heard it, I couldn't believe like, what you mean drugs legal everywhere? It was a strange concept to me, but I think the more and more I look at it now, I kind of find you should just let people use what they want to use, because once substances are uncontrolled, you're gonna have an issue. Like you're following in the States how much of a opioid problem they have, and or particularly the problem with fentanyl. So fentanyl being added to any drug that you could think about, and then that causing people to die from an overdose, quote unquote. So it's looking like they die from an overdose when in fact they were poisoned using fentanyl, right? You see it many, many times with some celebrities as well who they felt like whoever was the dealer, they gave them that, right? So in looking at this, I came across, and I saw this on the Breakfast Club as well, as he was everywhere talking about this at the time. This is Dr. Carl Hart, Professor Carl Hart. And he's basically going around saying that there's a miseducation happening about drug use. So this from the New York Times, right? This heroin using professor wants to change how we think about drug use. Professor Carl Hart saw drugs as destroyers in communities. Then he saw the positive side. We've miseducated the public. Carl Hart is a neuroscientist at Columbia University, and he fielded questions the other day about his new book, which makes an unconventional case for drug use. Dr. Hart, are you on anything now? He said, no, I'm in interview season now, he said on a recent afternoon. Why would you waste your substance on an interview? You have to concentrate and focus. To deal with the stress and boredom of interviews, maybe? He said, well, perhaps if we were at an academic reception, he said, no, you might take something like that will help you get through it. Like a low dose of opioids and a low dose of stimulants or something of that nature. So Dr. Hart, 54, one of the first tenured African-American science professors at Columbia, is Gadfly. Is a Gadfly. I'm going to pretend I know what Gadfly means and just move on, right? Is a Gadfly among drug researchers. What is that word, Gadfly? He's among drug researchers and a rock star among advocates for decriminalizing drugs. In Drug Use for Grown-Ups, Chasing Liberty in the Land of Fear, he confides that he has used heroin regularly for the last 4 years and described the time he took morphine daily for 3 weeks in order to experience withdrawal. So, this is a little odd, right? And I want to put a disclaimer here. I am in no way or shape or form encouraging anybody to take any kind of drugs. I also want to say that my young underage producer is not in the room while I'm discussing these topics. I just find it fascinating. I don't know if I have a conclusion to draw on it yet. And I would love to hear people's feedback on whether they think this should be a thing or not. But what Carl Hart is trying to say basically is that where substances are offered in a controlled environment and dosed properly, you will have less opportunity for people to sell fake drugs, bad drugs, lace drugs, and people at risk and end up dying from overdose when they use their regular dose and these kind of things. No. I can tell you for me, see me, I afraid certain things. I generally like to be okay. I like to have my head on. I like to be sober and straight, you know what I mean? So I might take a little sips, you know what I mean? A little edibles, whatever they bring for me, I might partake in a light way. I'm a very light user of whatever the thing is because, number one, I like to get up and be able to go to work the next morning. I don't like to feel too tired where I can't get nothing done. And I also don't like the feeling of being too out of control. Like I'm not in control of what happened to me. I'm frightened. No, Mike Tyson and them have a thing called ayahuasca. They say they told. I'm going to do that at some point, right? Because they say that is a level of enlightenment. Apparently, it's very safe. This thing natural, but it's enlightenment. But you have to travel somewhere to go and do the thing. And you see, that's why I started to get frightened. There's some jungle in Costa Rica or some kind of thing. Suppose me come out. But when you hear a man like Mike Tyson, who's one of the most dangerous men ever, when you hear how calm and wise he songs when he doing hotboxing podcast. That's another podcast you must take into. I would love to hear Joe Rogan go on hotboxing podcast. That would be sweet. But you know, just hearing him talk and the way he talks about it, we could see and maybe we could all agree that there may be benefits to any type of drug. Like I remember when marijuana was a fear, at least when I was growing up, it was a scary thing where people used to look at a marijuana user like a loser, like, you know, but now we're seeing more and more the benefits of it, and that is what people have been telling us for the longest while. Remember I feel like about 2 hours ago we were talking about institutional reflexivity. That's what I mean, where ganja is the worst thing and say no to drugs and don't smoke dope and all this kind of thing, to now where it is now legal to the point where people in jail for marijuana, while marijuana is becoming decriminalized throughout the world. Like, that's institutional reflexivity, you know. It was illegal at the time. You do it, you're still in jail. We had to go back and change laws now for you to be able to come out. But I even saw the other day where they said it might help you have a better time with COVID now. I find that kind of scary because my lungs and this thing. But again, maybe they have different ways to take it. I know if our partner was telling me the other day, he have the CBD oil and the thing oil, whatever oil, you know, you take that and you relax yourself and those types of things. So it's just food for thought, right? I just found it so strange when I see they're handing out crack pipes. I thought it was a joke at first, but apparently what they're trying to do is to get people to use drugs safely so that the needle's not going from person to person. And those needles now causing people to get sick and causing a burden on the healthcare system. Sound familiar? So I just couldn't believe when I saw that it was safe crack pipes. And it made me wonder, like, why not start to explore the road we're going down with marijuana now? Why not look at how we could do that with all drugs so that people less at risk and that the drugs itself don't make you become, no, you don't want to move to Chaguanas and you know what I mean, some fresh and all these things. Well, but also that if you're responsible as an adult, you could safely take your drugs in a safe environment, bought by a place where the dosage is measured and secure and them types of things. And it's so funny. I saw something on MYOB this week. I don't know the guy, but some local TikTok person who buy edibles from some place. Must they find on Instagram and thing, and they buy some brownies and the person take like 2 bites in the brownie and the man in hospital, and the speculation is that the brownie is laced with something, and it's like, dude, why a man should have to go through that? If you're a responsible adult and you decide you're going to partake in some marijuana, shouldn't we be looking at ways for people to be doing this risk-free or mitigate or minimize the risk? But again, we don't trust the drug companies, right? I forget how it is. We trust our local Instagram pusher more than the drug companies themselves. So just a strange one. I want to get back to love songs because this is our episode for love. So I want to get to one of my. This is our next song I love, and you know when you're going down the love road with Kaisos, you can't get away from a man like Sparrow, you know.
Making love one day with a girl they calling Mimi. Making love one day with a girl they calling Mimi. I pick up Mimi by the railway and we take a taxi straight to Claxton. Before we lay down on the carpet, she start catching fits where she bawling. Darling, don't bite me. Don't do that, honey. I never had a man to ever do that to me.
Ay, 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 do, darling. Look, me paws raise up.
You're making me feel so sweet. Stop, Sparrow, stop. This time if you see how she hooked me and I hook she like two snakes roll up. She's so deceitful, she ballin' stop, but she like it and I know that. By the way she started to scratch me like a cat. What, Sparrow? No. Darling, don't bite me. Don't do that, honey. I never had a man to do that to me. Ay, 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 do, darling. Look, me paws raise up. You're making me feel so sweet. Stop, Sparrow, stop. When we start to roll, I get sand all in me nose hole, sand all in me eye, and I get in bite with sand fly. I kept on scratching and scratching. All this time we're lying, oh, people watching waves. I say, wait, baby, yeah, that sand fly bite me down. Darling, don't bite me. Don't do that, honey. I never had a man to ever do that to me. Ay, 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 do, darling. Look, me paws raise up. You're making me feel so sweet. Stop, Sparrow, stop.
Yes.
Like she want to remain the whole day.
But when a man finish,
I think
it's foolish to be licorice.
I try to get up and tell she.
Yes.
Mimi, darling, the taxi waiting on we combo. Bring the rum.
When you finish, give your man some. Here she.
Darling,
You love me?
Please tell me, honey.
Why?
You know the man I have, he's ashamed to do that to me. Ay, 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 ay,
Do, darling. Look, me paws raise up. You're making me feel so weak. Stop, Sparrow, stop. You only forgive me, you know, I'll play one more, you know. A matter of fact, I have about 3 or 4. The whole rest of the episode is music, right? So if you're that man is only listening to current affairs, it was nice. I will see you next week. This is a love episode. I couldn't let the whole episode pass and don't play my number one favorite love, Kaisos.
But look at me cross, friends, this thing reach so far. Man right in this out, a still in a doubt, a pick up with Maria. The introduce her to me, darling, that's Lord Blakey. Oh, what a lovely face.
She put on she angel smile on me, and that was the case of me bowling Maria. Girl, I love you so bad, Maria. If you leave me now, will be hard.
I don't know
What made me love
so, but
what
she
she catch me sweet,
what she give me to rub, I eat. Yes. Bam, 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 bam. I could only get a verse and a chorus, because that's something I want to get to before I leave here. No, I warn you, I tell you it's a musical episode, so I want to play a next love song from the great, everlasting Lord Kitchener, the immortal. And I want you to listen to this love song from me, right? And tell me, if you know it, right? In the game. But if you don't know it, I want you to listen to it and tell me if it's song familiar to you. Because we're still in the episode with our 2022 song, 2022. We just had to take it back for the Valentine's time, right? So it's a love to me and all the listeners and all to my Valentine, Mrs. Shepherd. I have to get accustomed saying that, I still calling the woman Villarreal all over the place. I'm making big speech and calling the woman Villarreal. Now, why you listen to this one for me and tell me if it's song familiar in any way. Yes.
Sometime when I home with nothing to do, me mind always flash on a thing or two and take it from me. The first on me mind is them Brooklyn girls, how they treat me kind.
Yes.
Brooklyn woman, I will always understand. Brooklyn woman, they could get me wedding band. I will always love them, but still love the bacchanal. You don't get no problem when you have a broken girl. Rock me, kitschy, rock me, kitschy, rock me, kitschy, rock me, kitschy, rock me.
Yes. Yeah, music boy.
I remember last Carnival of Day, I met Andrea from Eastern Parkway. Well, we had a ball, we touched all the fete. Yes, the time I had, I'll never forget. Oh Lord, Brooklyn woman, I will always understand. Brooklyn woman, they could get me wedding band. I will always love them, but still love the bacchanal. You don't get no problem when you have a broken girl. Rock me, kitschy, rock me, kitschy, rock me, kitschy, rock me, kitschy, rock me.
So listen, that I tell you is about loving, is love for the Brooklyn woman, boy. But if you never heard that song before, if you want to know why the greats are great, let me fast forward to 2022. Right here it is. Yes.
Watch how the party turn up tonight. Because we out and bad and the people better we causing trouble.
Ollie, wait. Honestly, I want to go off it. You see this song? I can't take it. Ollie, sell my pod now, man. Let me fet. It's no wet me don't fet in the pods, boy. Somebody had to sell my ticket to go somewhere, but I can't go through this. This is not right.
Tell them pass the rum, ice, the place now one and wine. Watch how the party turn up tonight. Because we out and bad and the people better we causing trouble. Just watch how we causing trouble. Everybody buying bottles. Well after we causing trouble. Somebody give me room to mash up this place. Front to the back to jump up and wave. every kind of music and rhythm. Look, people all up in foreign, shouting this time with them missing.
Yes.
See rum, ice, ice. The place full of woman and vice. Well, I going home lash up tonight because we out and party. The people better we causing trouble.
No. I can't do this to myself. No, I can't do it. I honestly, salute to voice, one of the greatest ever do. I can't put myself through this because the mood I get in here. I go follow my neighbors again because this mood is our next fat mood now. My neighbors go vex. I'm not doing it again, right? So I just want you to know, just like this episode is full circle, the music come full circle. And salute to the voice. There's no why the greats great, you know, because they don't lose the connection of where they come from. Because picking up, and I talk about this a few times. I tell you earlier I come in to play 22 songs, right? But this, if it's not the second, is the third time I'm showing you where the 2022 song is very related to a very old song. I can't remember what was the one we do early in January. Yeah, it was the one where they do over the sugar boom boom rhythm, and I say that a salute to TC for a masterful redo, whatever you want to call it. I don't know what to call it. I'm still struggling for the word, but it's with good reason that everybody revisiting Kitchener this year, because this year would be the 20th anniversary of the passing of the Grandmaster boy. One of the great ones. So I make sure I have some Kitchener in the episode. And since that's the case, in the tradition of this podcast, as much as I'm going to 2022 music this year, I can't leave without leaving Hollywood at Kitchener to celebrate the 20th anniversary. Boy, look how long that was now. The great one. When you talk about not just the lyrics and the composition and the way he delivered, but the music behind what he was singing. Amazing. Hear how fresh voice make that thing. So I tell you only when that drum starts to hit and thing, it doing something to me, and I want to be in a fete. I had to take it on. So let me close this out and take this episode right back down with one of the greatest love songs ever written in Kaisos by the Grandmaster.
It was dark in a big park. I felt like a king upon the throne. Me and the elder lying alone. When I heard her talk and a creeping walk, as I look around frightfully, we were lying in the center of a cemetery. You talk about run, and nearly breaks me head. The living running from the dead. I go say, don't run me lad. Come let me play a game of card. Well, it's now a running in truth. My foot stick in a mango root. I fall along inside a tomb. I get up with a zoom, zoom, zoom. What had me sad and really mad, I was just about to start a little romance with my sweetheart. I kissed her twice, just feeling nice, when a voice said, Mister, you brave to be bringing your girlfriend on top me grave. You talk about run, and nearly bust me head.
Yes.
The living running from the dead. I go say, don't run me lad. Come let me play a game of card. Well, it's now a running in truth. Me put stick in a mango root. I fall along inside a tomb. I get up with a zoom, zoom, zoom. The scream I make, I sure the whole world shake. I know in big trouble, this time I sure I see the devil. I see a tall white horse on top a big black cross. As I ball out, oh God, my dead. The horse say, kids, come go to bed. You talk about run, and nearly bust me head. The living running from the dead. I go say, don't run me lad. Let me play a game of card. Well, it's now running in truth. They put stick in a mango root. I fall along inside a tomb. I get up with a zoom, zoom, zoom. As I reach the street, a tall gentleman I meet. I was feeling so happy to tell him my pride in the cemetery. He said, I can understand, you're a wild young man, but still you not to be blamed. When I was alive, I was just the same. You talk about run, and nearly bust me head. The living running from the dead. I
I go say, don't run me lad. Come and play a game of card. Well, it's now a running in truth. Me put stick in a mango root. I fall along inside a tube. I get up with a zoom, zoom, zoom.
I will see you all next week. Goodbye. Next week we're back to the regularly scheduled program, right? It's on Valentine's next week, right? So I will see you all on Tuesday.